Hi everyone, welcome to the Practice of Being podcast, and today's episode is called The Practice of Friendship. Friendship is one of the most beautiful, but also one of the most strange things that we experience in life. And I don't think we talk about that enough. When it comes to romantic relationships, everything seems a lot clearer. There's expectations, there's structure, and there's almost a script that everyone kind of follows. That person is your partner, your person, your supporter, and your constant. But friendship doesn't necessarily come with that same clarity. It's subtle, it's layered, it's complicated, and it's constantly shifting depending on who you're speaking to and who you're with and where you both are in your life. And I think that's what makes it so confusing, because there is so many different versions of what a friend even is. Someone that you met a day ago can feel just as close, just as important as someone that you've known your entire life. And if that's true, then what actually is friendship, and how can you define friendship? Because I don't think it correlates to time. I really don't. I used to think it was. I used to think it was really related to how long you knew someone, and then that naturally you become closer over time as you learn to support each other through different phases of life. But over the last year, I guess that idea has been completely challenged for me. I've met people who, within a short space of time, I've felt that understand me better than people that I've known my entire life. People who I feel safe with, and people that I know that would stand by me no matter what. And I'm aware of how intense that sounds. And I know there's also always that voice that says, yeah, but it's too soon to know whether they'll actually be with you through everything. But I don't believe that anymore. Because when something is real, you feel it. I think that we've been conditioned to doubt that feeling just because it doesn't fit into this logical timeline that makes sense. But at the same time, friendship isn't just about connection. It's about how we show up. Because one of the biggest things that I've realized is how much pressure we attach to friendship without even noticing it. There's this unspoken idea that when you say yes to your friends, you're committing to hours and hours of spending time with them, and whether it's a 6-hour hangout or a 2-hour FaceTime that ends up stretching throughout the night. And if you don't do that, it almost feels as if you're not being a good friend. But that doesn't make sense, because why should saying yes to a friend mean that you're saying no to yourself? Why does it have to be all or nothing? And what I've learned that has genuinely changed my life over the last few years, you don't have to commit to the whole thing. You can say yes to a half plan. Yes, I'll come to lunch, but I can't stay out after that. Or I'll come for a couple drinks, but I don't feel like going out afterwards. And that doesn't make you a bad friend. It makes you someone that understands balance. And I think that's something that everyone generally struggles with. We've been taught from a young age that it's all or nothing. You're either in or you're fully out. But real life doesn't work like that, and real friendships don't work like that either. There is a middle ground. And the friends that understand that, the friends that understand your boundaries and meet you where you're at, those are the real friends. And those are the ones that are going to last and stay with you, because they respect boundaries. And just in the way that you might be going through a busy phase in your life, it will come a time where they are too. And we have to use that same understanding that we wanted towards them. Because the truth is, people feel burdened when they're constantly feeling like they're sacrificing themselves, no matter who it is. With every yes, it feels like somewhat of a compromise. When every plan they make feels like something that they have to recover from afterwards, that's not really what friendship should feel like. But at the same time, friendship is not just about boundaries. It's also about how much you're willing to give. There's this constant conversation right now around, what am I actually getting back? And yes, that matters. Of course it matters. But we really lost something when we have started to measure friendships like that. Because if your cup is full and you genuinely feel good within yourself, then you should want to give. You should want to show up for people, to bring the energy, to bring positivity to someone's life, to be someone that adds something to people's days. And that should exhilarate you. It should fill you with joy. It should energize you. And if it drains you to be a positive influence in people's lives, then I think that there's something wrong. And that can be for a couple of reasons. It could be that you're not with the right people, that they don't see you perfectly, they don't necessarily appreciate what you bring, and or that your energy is being misunderstood or even just dismissed. And that doesn't necessarily make them bad people, it just means that they're not your people. Because when you walk away from spending time with people that you truly, truly enjoy and that you connect with, you should feel seen. You should feel like your presence mattered, you were acknowledged, who you are was received. But there's another side to this as well. Sometimes the reason that you feel drained is not because of the other person. It's because you have put too much pressure on being that person that is always giving, giving, and giving, to be the positive one, the uplifting one, the strong one. And when that energy isn't returned, it starts to feel really unfair. And it starts to feel like you're carrying this burden alone of, if you don't do it, then no one else will. And it feels like really dead. Because it's true, friendships, it just can't be one-sided. You cannot keep giving 110% to someone when they are always giving you back 10%. And that's when you have to start asking yourself really difficult questions. Not just, am I receiving enough? But why am I not receiving enough? Is it because they don't value the friendship? Or is it because they don't have the capacity right now? Because those are two very different situations. Because if someone is at their lowest, if their cup is empty, then no matter how much you pour into them, it's like pouring into a cup that has a crack in it. That doesn't mean that the friendship isn't real, but it means that they need you so much more. And it means that they don't have it in them to give you something back. And we have to bring to the table the understanding, the compassion, the love that was the reason that the friendship even started. And this is something that I had to learn a really hard way. There was a time many years ago, I think it was like 5 to 6 years ago, when I walked away from a friendship because I felt like it wasn't serving me. If anything, I felt like I was carrying too much pressure and it drained me. I felt overwhelmed. I didn't understand how to support someone without losing myself in the process. I look back on that now and I realize how much I did not understand at the time. I didn't know how to hold space for someone without taking all the pressure on me and taking all the emotions they were feeling. But it's not that they were going through something wrong or they did something wrong, but it was because I couldn't understand that in a time when someone needs you the most, you need to drop everything, the ego, lack of compassion, the feeling of why am I not getting it back or why am I not receiving something back. And I feel like you need to be there for people because that's what will test a true friendship. And I don't necessarily feel like that friendship was a make or break. It was so nuanced that I knew that if I had behaved in a different way or if I had reacted in a different way, even though it was an extended period of time, it was like months, I know that the outcome, I could have helped. I could have been a lot more supporting than I was. But I do think a lot of people relate to that. But what I've learned since then is you cannot ask someone whether or not a relationship is reciprocative when they are at their lowest point. That's not the moment to measure. It's the moment to show compassion, to show up because you care, and not because you're expecting something in return. Because your happiness can't be dependent on someone else's ability to give to you in a certain moment. Happiness is something that you choose. It's internal. It's something you cultivate. It's something that you hold on to regardless of the circumstances. But outside of those moments, outside of those lows that people are experiencing, you do have to be honest with yourself. You do have to recognize when you're being given the bare minimum, especially when people do have the capacity to give. And this is something that really hit me recently. A close friend to me said, "Why are you getting excited over a like? Why are you valuing one-word responses and as if it means something deeper? Remind yourself of who you are." And that hit me when she told me that, because I had failed to realize what she had realized. Sometimes we lower our standards without even realizing it, and we accept less than we would naturally give, and we would justify it because of the fear of losing that connection. But you have to ask yourself, is this the kind of friendship that I want with that person? And is this the kind of friendship that I would give to someone else? Because if it's not, then why are you accepting it? At the same time though, it's really important not to swing in the complete opposite direction, because we live in a world that constantly tells us, oh, if it doesn't serve you, walk away. If it's not adding something to your life, then you don't need it. And I don't fully agree with that. If something doesn't serve you, you first have to ask why. Is it the person? Is it the situation? Is it timing? Because walking away from something that is really great but is just going through a little bit of a rocky time simply because someone can't show up for you in the moment, I don't think that's necessarily strength. I class that more as avoidance. Because real friendship is not just black and white. It's about knowing when to give without expecting. It's when to step back without resentment, and when to hold on to your standards without having guilt. And ultimately, I believe that the practice of being a friend comes down to two things. The first is who you are, understanding yourself, who you are, what you need, what you value, what you're willing to accept from your friends, which people are the friends that you can rely on for a set amount of things, which friends are necessarily for different purposes, for your hobbies, to cultivate interests, to talk about, to have a fun time. You'll have friends that you want to talk to on the phone for 2 hours, and you have friends with sometimes that you don't necessarily need to speak to that much, but you know you have the best time on a night out dancing with them. And you'll have the friends where you talk once in every 6 months and it feels like nothing has ever changed and you have the best catch up ever. And you'll have other friends where you speak every day, or you speak every other day, and without them being in your lives, your day feels incomplete. And those are perfect. That's amazing to have that range of friends. Not one friendship is the same. You don't need to have a blueprint. So this is what I need my friend to have. These are all the qualities. They need X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, they are unaccepted into the Naisha clan. But you do need to recognize that friends come in your life for different reasons. And you don't need to have a checklist of expectations of what they need to do, but you need to understand what kind of friend you want them to be in your life. You can't do that without understanding yourself. So Aristotle actually talks about friendship with 3 bullet points. He says you have 3 different types of friends. Friendships of utility, of which you kind of have a give and take and you learn from each other. The more transactional friendships where you know that by doing something you can gain something out of it. Then comes a friendship of pleasure. Someone that you might enjoy going for drinks with or hobbies with and having those fleeting moments and you just have a great time together. You enjoy their company, you admire them, it's wonderful. And then the third one is a friendship of virtue. And he kind of talks about it in like a funnel. So you trickle down into each of them, and this friendship of virtue, people that you genuinely like for themselves, people that push you to grow, people that add to your life, people that stand by you, people that make you a better person. I think that's it's quite a nice way to understand friendship in a very logical sense, as philosophers would make it, to understand what kind of friends in your life you have and where they fall in your life, not necessarily to judge them or put them into a category, they might be a multiple of them, but to help yourself to manage your expectations, to help yourself grow and not be completely reliant. But the second thing is, I went on a tangent, but second thing is learning how to balance between giving and protecting yourself. Because you should give fully when you have the capacity to. You should show up. You should love deeply, but you also have to have boundaries. You should recognize when something is no longer aligned, when something is no longer mutual, when something is no longer healthy. I say that word lightly. Because the right friendships will never really make you have to choose between the two. They will allow you to be both. And I think that's when you know, not necessarily when someone has been in your life the longest, but someone that makes you feel more like yourself. That's what true friendship is. And that's what I, as a friend, would aspire to be like. And I hope that this episode provided a perspective on friendship that maybe made you think. I'm sure that we'll do something along this topic line again because there's so many facets to friendship and I think there's much to explore still. Thank you so much for listening and for joining, and I will catch you at the next episode. This was the practice of friendship. Bye.